Did you know that there are secret adult activities going on cruise ships around the world right now? Some of these could get you kicked off the ship or worse. One involves hidden surveillance that you need to know about. Number 7 alone could save you hundreds of dollars. I'm Gary with Optimal Cruising, and I'm about to reveal the 10 biggest adults-only secrets that the cruise lines absolutely do not want you to know about. Let's get started. So you splurged a little on that balcony cabin. It's the first day of your cruise. You're all excited and thinking it might be fun to get a little frisky out there on the balcony. After all, it's just you and the open ocean. But that balcony may not be as private as it seems. There was a couple that tried this last year on a Caribbean cruise, but apparently they were a little noisy and didn't take into account that there's no real sound barrier out there on the balcony. Well, people complained and they actually were kicked off the ship and had to find their own way back home. If you're gonna try something on your balcony, keep in mind there could be others listening, but that's not all. These ships have cameras covering every inch of their exterior for safety reasons, and that includes the balconies. And at night, they use thermal and infrared cameras. So even when you think it's safe, your intimate moments might not be that private. We went on a cruise a couple years back with friends of ours who go to Las Vegas all the time. I know the guy, he's a big gambler, and I assumed he's gonna be in the cruise ship casino. That's how he likes to have fun. When he didn't step foot in the casino once during the entire cruise, it left me wondering why. So I asked him. Now, a lot of cruisers like to gamble in the cruise ship casinos because of the perks. Cruise lines tend to offer good perks that can add up quickly to a free cruise. My friend did a little research before going on the cruise, and he found out that once that ship gets into international waters, they are not under any government or regulatory body overseeing their gaming. So they can set whatever odds they want. They can even manipulate and change the odds while people are gambling without them knowing about it. And the odds in cruise ship casinos are typically a lot lower than they are on land-based casinos. And my friend, well, he gambles to win. He doesn't care about the perks so much, so he wouldn't touch it. Now, if you think that's a bit shady, wait till you see what can happen if you misbehave on a cruise ship. When I go on a cruise, my first thought is time to relax. I like to find a nice little spot on the pool deck, maybe with a little shade, where I can order up a tropical cocktail or two. But there is one thing I have seen a number of cruisers do that can turn that relaxing vacation into a nightmare. Even though you're on vacation, it's very important to be mindful of your behavior in public. And when you're on a cruise ship, unless you are in your stateroom with the door closed, you are in public. And there are 3,000 or more passengers in close proximity, all with video cameras in their pockets. And if you drink a little too much and lose your inhibitions, you're likely to do something that will turn into somebody else's viral video. There is so much stupid behavior that has been caught on video on cruise ships, like people throwing things overboard, people getting into fights has been on the uprise lately, people exhibiting lewd behavior who otherwise wouldn't be caught dead doing so. If you were thinking what happens on a cruise ship stays on a cruise ship, you're dead wrong. Everybody is looking for that viral spark, and they will post your behavior all over the internet. And if you happen to be doing something that violates cruise policy, they check social media. They're likely to kick you off the ship, fine you, or ban you from their cruise line for life. And please don't be the guy that posts on social media about how they snuck something on board, like alcohol, that they weren't supposed to. That's a surefire way to get yourself banned from the cruise line. Now, if you can manage to stay off of TikTok during your cruise, you might be able to take advantage of some considerable savings. But first, we really want to know what you think causes people to behave like this on cruise ships. Drop us a comment below. Imagine saving hundreds of dollars on something you use every day just by going on a cruise. If you are cruising in the Caribbean or Mexico, you will find, especially at Mexican ports of call, that they have pharmacies where you can get most major prescriptions without a doctor's note. You can walk in there and the pharmacist is authorized to give you the prescription based on your needs. And the cost of those prescriptions will be a whole lot less than they are in the United States. In fact, we know a woman who swears that the diet pills she purchases are so much cheaper in Mexico that it basically pays for the cost of her cruise. Now, a word of caution here. We are talking about your health. So if you're going to buy prescriptions at a port of call like Mexico, where they have looser regulations, make sure you're going into an actual pharmacy where they have all of the drugs and they know what they're talking about. Don't buy them on the street from some vendor. You don't know what you're getting there. And then be aware that the United States government does have some restrictions on bringing medications back into the country. Not that they're going to check everything, but be aware of what those restrictions are before you try to bring medications back with you. Someone once asked me when they were getting ready to book their first ever cruise, he said, "Gary, how do I know I'm not booking myself on one of those cruises?" And the implication was clear. He had heard about these nude cruises or these swingers cruises, and he definitely wasn't into that and didn't want to end up on a ship where people were doing those kinds of things. Now, there are definitely nude cruises out there and swingers cruises out there. And if you're into that kind of thing, you just have to know where to look. But for the average cruiser, you don't have to worry about booking yourself onto one of these cruises because they're not advertised on the cruise line's websites or on mainstream travel agent or cruise travel websites. In fact, these adults-only themed cruises are run by third parties, and there's all kinds of themed cruises run by these third parties, including music cruises, decade cruises, and of course the nude cruises and the swingers cruises. Companies like Bliss Cruises and Temptation Cruises will actually book an entire ship for a week and make it a swingers cruise, for example. And then they will resell each of those cabins to people who are looking for that kind of cruise. And you have to go through one of these private agencies in order to get on one of these types of cruises. Now, maybe these types of chartered cruises are not exactly what you're looking for, but there are some adult activities going on almost every cruise ship that you're gonna want to know about. But first I'm going to briefly go over the drinking loopholes that have to do with cruising. This is something that young adults and parents of young adults are always asking about. So any cruise ship departing in the North American region, especially any cruise ship leaving any U.S. city, will follow the U.S. drinking age of 21. So you will not be able to get alcohol on the ship unless you're 21 years old. However, if you're between 18 and 21, you still will be able to drink at many ports of call because a lot of these ships, they go to the Caribbean, they go to Mexico, and at Mexican ports and many ports in the Caribbean, the drinking age is only 18. So once you get off that ship, it's fair game. Now, if you're doing a cruise in Europe or Asia, it's a little different because most countries in those parts of the world have a minimum drinking age of 18. So the cruise ships and the cruise lines follow that. So in Europe and Asia, you're going to find that on most of those cruise ships, if you're 18, you can drink just as if you were 21 in the United States. So let's say you're going on a cruise and you're single and you wouldn't mind finding somebody to spend a little time with during that cruise. You might be going with your friends or your family, but you don't have a partner. So how are you going to find somebody on a cruise ship? Well, actually, this happens a lot more than you might think. Now, you can't find people the typical ways because those dating apps don't work on cruise ship Wi-Fi. The location doesn't work very well, and you won't really be able to see who else is on board looking. Well, the first thing to do is look for singles meetups. Now, most cruise ships will have these every day or every other day. You just have to look on your phone at the schedule or the printed out schedule and find out when they are and attend. It's as simple as that. People also tell us that if you go to a bar and you order a blue martini, that is some kind of a signal that you're single and open to look. So maybe somebody will approach you. A word of caution though. If you happen to hook up with somebody on your cruise that you don't want to see again, a cruise ship is a very small world, and you'll probably be wondering in the back of your mind when you're going to bump into that person next. And if you already have a partner, but you're looking for a cruise that has a little more adults and less children running around, you're going to want to hear this next tip. If you've enjoyed these tips so far, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get all of our channel updates, and wait until you hear these final tips. So you're planning a cruise with your spouse or your partner, and you want to get away from the kids for a while. So you've looked at Virgin Voyages, which is an adults-only cruise line. It's pretty mainstream. They do have a topless sunbathing deck, but other than that, they don't offer swingers cruises or nude cruises. It's pretty mainstream and mild, and comparable to other ships, it's just adults only. But the price for Virgin is pretty expensive. So if you want a cheaper option, here's what you've got to do. Make your reservation on any of the lower cost cruise lines like Royal Caribbean, MSC, Carnival, and do it when kids are in school. You'll find that these ships have up to 80% less kids on board during school season, and not only that, the price is cheaper because it's not as crowded. This way you can have the best of both worlds, spend a little less, and have a great vacation and get away from the kids for a while. And just because your ship might not have a topless sunbathing deck doesn't mean you can't get away with it in other areas. A lot of people really aren't into doing a nude cruise, but they might want to take advantage of the opportunity to do some topless sunbathing while at sea. With all the families and kids on board ships these days, however, those areas have almost vanished, but there are still some options out there for you. In North America, Virgin Voyages is known for having a topless sunbathing deck. Costa and MSC in the European market also have these topless deck areas. Some can be hard to find, so you just have to ask a staff member if you're interested in that kind of thing, because it's definitely not advertised. Unless you're walking onto it, then you'll see the signs. However, on almost any cruise ship sailing in the middle of the ocean, they will allow you to get topless on your balcony for a little sunbathing. Just keep in mind, it might not be completely private, but you'll probably have no issue doing it there. Now, don't miss this last tip, because it's the controversial one that could get you kicked off the ship, banned from the cruise line, or even worse. And whatever you do, don't try to smuggle marijuana or cannabis on board your cruise ship. A passenger reported only a couple months ago that he was kicked off the ship at one of the ports of call after being discovered to have marijuana in his possession, even though he had a medical card. The major cruise lines do not care. They have a strict no tolerance policy, and if you get caught, you will get kicked off, possibly banned from the cruise line, and there could be even more consequences. Cruise lines operate under maritime law, and they set the rules on this stuff. Not your state, not your home country, so even if it's allowed where you're from, it is not allowed on any major cruise line. And if you manage to smuggle some on board with you, and you take it offshore at one of your ports of call, like Mexico, where it is completely illegal, you could actually be arrested and detained. You'll realize it's no joke when you get off at one of these ports and are headed right into a line of drug-sniffing dogs. Until the cruise lines change their policy on this, don't risk it. Don't lose your vacation, or worse, over a little green. Now, if you think some of these adult activities were a bit shocking, wait until you hear about the outrageous cruise line ripoffs that could cost you thousands. I'll show you how to spot them right here.